Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha. Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. So I felt like it was important to speak about the character of Vaishnavas as a whole, and what they mean to us. We can oftentimes feel as though our job as devotees is to be detached and like firmly fixed in a renunciation that I've rarely seen. But one of the amazing things about all of these lives of the Vaishnavacharyas that we've been covering almost for a year. So what's amazing about all the lives of these Vaishnavacharyas is that they were just sincere and authentic and genuine. And this is what I feel as though one of the crowning glories and qualities of a Vaishnava is. They're sincere and authentic and genuine. And if there's anything that I hope and pray for every day, is just to continue to try and be a little sincere and just authentic and genuine. Krishna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra could have told Arjuna so many things. And Arjuna is, in essence, he's having a breakdown and a freak out and all these things. And he's telling Krishna, look, I could just go to the forest. We don't have to do this. The whole thing. Like, it's going to cause pain and misery. We don't have to do any of this. And Krishna could have said, you know what, you're right. You could be like the other saints. Go to the forest, do a little meditation, perfect your life. Of course, we know Arjuna could have done it as one half of the Nara-Narayan duo, like our supreme twin duo. Of course, he could have been a perfect renunciate and a perfect yogi. That's what they do. They meditate for the good of the entire universe. So Arjuna could have. But Krishna tells him that that's not you, not this time. Not only is it not you, but it won't make you happy. In fact, he goes as far as to say, what will repression accomplish? So I try and look at the lives of the Vaishnavacharyas, and I look at their renunciation. And oftentimes I think about it in terms of repression, not renunciation. But what are we really looking at? We spoke last time about Shamananda Pandit, and he was carrying water back and forth for his Guru Maharaj and for their deity worship. And he had sores on his head, and they got infected with worms. And it is often said that he didn't even realize. Now, that's a very new level of non-body consciousness. And is it that he didn't realize? But even if he did realize, it didn't stop his devotional service. So in this case, it seems as though it's less about repression and more about becoming so absorbed in our devotional service that the rest simply doesn't matter. Or we found something that matters more. We're willing to put aside all of the other things. And this is in my opinion, what Srila Prabhupada speaks about with a higher taste. You find something that matters more. And these are the lives of our Vaishnava Acharyas. This is what I feel as though I've learned most from Lord Shiva. Sati has a deep discussion with Lord Shiva. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments in the commentary of Srimad Bhagavatam that when Sati and Lord Shiva are having this conversation, Sati says, "My Lord, when my father Daksha walked into the assembly, why couldn't you have just stood up and given him an honorific welcome? You are so humble. I know you. You're not proud. You're not looking for any kind of prestige. You're not looking to defame anyone. Your name is the very embodiment of all auspiciousness. So why wouldn't you simply just stand up? You've never failed to give honor to my own father." Lord Shiva says, "Devi, my problem is I would have stood up, but I wasn't there." He says, when I go into meditation, it's not just a theory. Right? I meditate on Lord Vasudev, the controller, the guider, the mentor of the heart and the mind and the consciousness. But not only is Lord Vasudev a person, but Vasudev is a state of consciousness. It's also a place where Lord Vasudev resides. So when I meditate, I go to that place. When I meditate, it's because my Lord has called me and has said, "I need some service from you." How can I say no if my Lord calls me? So, Devi, I would have stood up, but my external body was there. Internally, I was away. So I had no idea about what was going on around me. And once again, I thought, what if renunciation is less about repression and more about that authentic vision? We're just no longer aware of what's going on. And these are our Vaishnava Acharyas. These are the lives of our great devotees. From the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, when Maharaj Prithu is welcomed, there are a couple of verses that are extremely sweet. Maharaj Prithu begins to speak to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he says, "My dear Lord, I therefore do not wish to have the benediction of merging into your existence, a benediction in which there is no existence of the nectarian beverage of your lotus feet. I want the benediction of at least 1,000,000 years, for thus I may be able to hear about the glories of your lotus feet from the mouths of your pure devotees. My dear Lord, you are glorified by the selected verses uttered by great personalities. Such glorification of your lotus feet is just like saffron particles. When the transcendental vibration from the mouths of great devotees carries the aroma of the saffron dust of your lotus feet, the forgetful living entity gradually remembers his eternal relationship with you. Devotees thus gradually come to the right conclusion about the value of life. My dear Lord, I therefore do not need any other benediction, but the opportunity to hear from the mouth of your pure devotee." I was reflecting on those two verses as I thought about the different devotees who joined Sri Krishna in his eternal pastimes this past week. And I thought this was them. This was the example. They were unwilling to let anything stand in the way of their devotional service, of speaking the glories of our Supreme Lord, serving as pujaris, serving other Vaishnavas. And finally, they get so determined that not even this body is enough of a deterrent anymore. Not even this body is enough to say, okay, Let me stop my devotional service. They walk forward proudly, boldly. And these two verses really exemplify, just so hungry for Krishna Katha in any and all of its forms. I also thought, when it comes to parents and spiritual uncles and well-wishers, they could give an easier example. Like they could take it easy on us. They could give us a more manageably following example. These are devotees who, like, I know of devotees, my dear friends Yogi and Ananda, their father, would walk to Mangal Arti so as not to miss a day, whether he was in Vrindavan or in Switzerland or wherever. If there was a temple and there was a Mangal Arti, he was going to make it. And his health wasn't always that good. He was going to go and he was going to preach Krishna Katha, whether the temple was full or whether it was empty, whether he was known or not. And I think, I thought to myself, I was like, these parents, man, they could give us an easier example. Because it makes it very difficult for me then to say, I can't make it this morning, I have allergies. When devotees are just, if there's a Mangal Arti, I'm going to walk. Doesn't matter the distance. And he would. And this is like, for us, anywhere else in the world, it's like dead of night, it's not like a fun time in the morning. But this is the determination. My mom, she had knee surgery and she had to recover. But she just wanted to do her service, which dressing the deities is primarily on your knees, especially at Radha Govinda Mandir, where the deities are about the size of me. So she's primarily on her knees most of the time. And my dad, all the other devotees were saying, well, take it easy. But all she wanted was her devotional service. So she was thinking, like, how can I get around it? Can I get knee pads? Like, how do we get around it? And the way that we finally got her to be around it was to heal. Just take a second and heal. For my mom, pausing and taking a second and healing means not serving 4 out of the 7 days a week, but maybe just 3. So I'm like, these parents, can't they give an easier example? Because then how am I supposed to say, oh, I have a stomach ache, I can't really go today? And my mom, with the knee surgery, is thinking, you know what, maybe if I just, cut back. But this is the hunger. This is the desire. There are so many incidences where devotees say, my Lord, I don't want to merge because I might forget that my position is just to give you service, somehow to make you happy. My position is just somehow to show you a little love, however I can. And these 2 verses not only show that loving reciprocation between the devotee and Krishna, because Maharaj Prithu is speaking directly to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's like, what would we do if we had a sacrifice? Krishna shows up present fully. We can see him. Everyone else can see him. Am I able to just say, oh, my Lord, I don't want anything else but to just continue hearing your glories? Or do I get a little caught up? You know what, my Lord, I don't want anything else but to hear your glories. However, if you see fit and you just, out of the magnanimity of your own heart, you would like to give me copious amounts of money and jewelry, then that's up to you. You do it. What can I do, my Lord? It's your own free will. Or am I able to really authentically, genuinely say, with all sincerity, my Lord, I don't really need anything else. Dhruva went to the forest for a kingdom, but seeing the Lord in front of him, he forgot everything else. Am I that eager? Am I that steadfast in my determination to see Govinda? This verse also, these two verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, really impressed upon me, not just the genuine, sincere humility that once these devotees are hearing Krishna Katha, they're able to honestly forget and renounce everything else, not just repress everything else, but genuinely renounce everything else in a way that simply doesn't matter. And that's the example of Maharaj Parikshit. No drinking, no eating, 7 days just diving in, no sleeping, no breaks. Not like, okay, we're going to break for 20 minutes. Then all the assembled Vaishnavas and sages, we're going to come back, resume Canto 4. Like none of that. Just fully immersed, and so immersed that you can ask pertinent questions. Right? This is an absorption where we're really actively listening. And, active listening means something different today. In a time where it's become a really big thing to try and make sense of and kind of maybe sometimes over-explain everything. Now we've gotten new definitions of listening and what that means and what that looks like. And now this active listening sometimes means that you just kind of repeat everything that the person has said. And that means you are listening. But in the scope of Srimad Bhagavatam, what does listening mean? Listening means that Maharaj Parikshit would sometimes stop Shukadeva Goswami and say, how sweet. But also he would say, wait, I'm confused. Go deeper. Wait. You mentioned this, but how could this have happened? If you mentioned that 12 hours ago. This is the active listening, the eager absorption, which encourages the speaker to continue, to go deeper, to become more enlivened and more enthused. But all of this hinges on Vaishnavas needing each other. We need each other so much. Those two verses would have no place without the reciprocation between Vaishnavas. That speaking and hearing, Maharaj Prithu is saying, I don't want anything else but to hear Krishna Katha from the mouths of your pure devotees, which means that there needs to be some around. This is our actual wealth. This is necessity. Sometimes in the cases of Vaishnavas, and in the cases of our relationships with each other, I started off by saying we can think that we must be really renounced and detached. Nothing should affect us. We should just be able to pick up and move on. But is that really the case with Vaishnavas? Is that really how it goes? All through Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, which I have to mention because we honor Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur, we see examples of how devotees love each other. Not just for 1 minute or an hour, but throughout their lives, they love each other. They have a deep respect for one another. This is the reason that even before the advent of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the devotees are coming together. They're gathering at Advaita Acharya's house saying, what do we do? Look at the state of the world. It's ridiculous. We can't practice. Other people won't let us practice, but we're finding it difficult. How can we find other devotees who know more about Krishna, who know as much about Krishna? They're eager for association. They call Mahaprabhu down so that they can have association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and with each other. A couple of years ago on my birthday, I was talking to one of my friends, and they said, I was really thinking about modern philosophy. And one of the things of modern philosophy is that we should be fine. We should be able to be complete in ourselves, by ourselves, not needing anybody else, right? We shouldn't need an extra relationship. We shouldn't need another a marriage, a spouse, a partner. We shouldn't need anybody else. We should be complete people in and of ourselves. That's it. And I said, well, forgive me, but that kind of sounds a lot like trash. And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, if that were the case, we wouldn't be here. No one is more self-sufficient than Atmaram Sri Krishna. It's in the name, self-sufficient, right? Atmaram, pleased by the self. So, if anybody can be pleased in and of themselves, it's Atmaram Sri Krishna. However, Srimad Bhagavatam cites a little bit of a phenomenon. Beginning of creation, Mahavishnu's lying on the ocean. Before anything happens, everything is dark, there's nothing around. And it says within Srimad Bhagavatam that the Supreme Lord felt a lacking. How can Atmaram feel a lacking? Right? In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, does the Supreme Lord feel a lacking? Not exactly, but out of his own causeless mercy, free will, he manifests this feeling of lacking. Something's missing. I don't know, it doesn't feel right. And what's lacking? What's missing? What does he do next? He glances over material nature and reawakens the jivas, us. The Supreme Lord, who is fully self-sufficient, self-satisfied, completely able to produce anything and everything himself, feels a lacking. And what's that lacking for? It's us. Association. He misses his friends. So I said, forgive me, but according to the science of Srimad Bhagavatam, this phenomenon, if even the Supreme Lord hankers after association, then who am I? Who am I to say, nah, I don't need it. I'm fully renounced. I kind of like that this is not what Bhakti is about. We need each other. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, as he was leaving the planet, and even before, he would say, you better get it right now. Better get it right this time. Because who you serve with here will be who you serve with there. So you're not going to get away from them. All of the things that we think, we're like, oh, devotees, you're not going to get away from them. You're going to continue serving with them. So let's get it right this time. Let's figure it out. Let's figure out how to fit these jigsaw puzzle pieces together. And that, for me, made such a huge impression on my heart, on my mind, that we don't get away from each other. And I like that. I like the fact that I don't just get to say, you know what? And then that soul, I never communicate with again. Okay, there are some difficult people that we would like to say, I'll never communicate with them again. But chances are that doesn't happen. Even in Goloka Vrindavan, there are variants of spicy connections. We have the pastimes of Shri Shri Radha Govinda, but they're not always smooth, right? You need some spice. And even in the case of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we get people who would criticize him. We have Ramachandra Puri, which is a story that I will tell in length on a different Ekadashi. But this Vaishnava, right, God brother, of his own spiritual masters. He's like, you're like my own spiritual master, no problem. Disciple of Madhavendra Puri, who was kind of kicked out by Madhavendra Puri. But he was a Vaishnava, and he would criticize Mahaprabhu and all of the other devotees. How much are you eating? You eat too much, but now you eat too little. But now it's not enough. But you have too much money, but you have not enough money. All of these things. And then he would purposefully go and set up meetings with the other devotees so that he could criticize them. He would find a way. And Mahaprabhu even honored him still. And we think, why? But Gauraganadesh Dipika tells this is the incarnation of Jatila, the very spicy mother-in-law of Srimati Radhika, who often would find fault with both Radharani and Krishna. So devotees have a role, even the annoying ones. And Krishna doesn't say, no, you can't be here. Krishna finds a place for everyone. Even down to Brihad Bhagavatamrita by our glorious Sanatana Goswami speaks about how in Dwarka, all of the relatives of Krishna were residing there, along with Padmavati, the mother of Kamsa, who would continuously find fault with the Brijbasis. How? Well, not just because like she's the mother of Kamsa. Like you might think, okay, mother of Kamsa, get it. She birthed a demon. That was a very long story, and she got tricked. And so there was cursing and counter cursing. But she would find fault with the Brijbasis in this way. Krishna would say, I owe these Brijbasis my very life, for they have given me everything. Their love, their homes, their very selves. And Balaram would hear, Rohini would hear, the mother of Krishna, Devaki, would hear. All of the relatives of Krishna would be hearing eagerly, because now they're getting some of this mysterious, the early pastimes of Krishna's life, which are so mysterious. Now they're getting to like the cream. And Padmavati would interject, excuse me, just for a moment. I hear what you're saying. However, it doesn't seem to me as though you owe them anything. First off, like 3 days after your birth, they lost you. A witch came and kidnapped you, okay? So they lost the child. Then a whirlwind came. And if it were me, there would be nothing that could stop me from keeping an eye on my children. You ever see those people? They're like, in my day, we always kept an eye on the children and we never lost them. So not only did you lose him within 3 days of his birth, but then a whirlwind came. Oh, I can't find him. I can't see him. It's too dark. So you lost him again. His whole life, he was in danger. She always conveniently leaves out that it was from her son that he was in danger. Neither here nor there, but he was in danger his whole life. And then they starved that poor child. They wouldn't feed him. He had to go and break pots in order to just find some scraps, something to eat, because he was so hungry. And then he was driven mercilessly to becoming a thief just so that he could eat just a one morsel. And then they would send him out to work. Okay, if you say this Nanda and this Yashoda, one of them, both of them, somebody knew that he was the son of a Kshatriya like Vasudeva. But they sent him out to work. And they didn't even give him shoes. So in my estimation, you owe them nothing. In fact, you should never go back. You should always just stay here with us. Let us protect you. And Brihad Bhagavatamrita says that they expertly ignored her. But what they didn't do was kick her out. Krishna never said, okay, that's it, you've got to go. There's a place for everyone, even the annoying devotees. So we need each other. We're not going to just magically get free from one another. And this really brings about the purport of tolerance for me. Tolerance and that humility. Can we tolerate each other? Which is always amazing, you know, in a family. Sometimes, as a brahmachari, you can kind of sidestep it. But as a family, you're there, in it, all the time. And as a mom, there's never a peaceful moment. Like even if you go to the bathroom, like their little voices are right there, finding the cracks in the door. Mom, mom, if you could, there's a bug, mom. And I'm thinking, you know, I think the bug will be there in 30 seconds. If you just, could you give me a second? But this is tolerance. And my sister often says, she in the midst of whatever she's going through, there will be bowls in the sink with all various kinds of substances and all things. And then she'll start to say, she's like, oh, devotees, and then she stops at devotees and she goes, I have a chance to serve the Vaishnavas. No matter what it is, she takes that opportunity in a family as a chance to serve other Vaishnavas. Gaur Govinda Maharaj, you know, sometimes people would often like to quote that he would say Grihastha life is like spiritual progress at a crocodile's pace. It's moving very slowly. But he would also say it teaches it's intense lessons. Because at this point, you're not detaching from everybody else. You have to learn how to deal with other people. And the spiritual world is filled with other people. We have to learn how to deal with one another intimately. No longer do we just get to like write somebody off. That's it. I just don't have to deal with them. No problem. In the spiritual world, it's not that simple. We're all there together, constantly. So we need each other. There's no, I want millions of ears and I just want the benediction to constantly hear your glories from the mouths of your pure devotees if we don't have any pure devotees to hear from. My Guru Maharaj gave a lecture about Jad Bharat. And he says, this was the case. This was the problem with Jad Bharat. Jad Bharat's problem was not the deer. Right? Usually we hear Jad Bharat went to the forest. He was steeped in meditation. A deer came. He was dealing with the deer. And then he became so engrossed in dealing with the deer that he forgot his puja. And then when he died, he was thinking about the deer and then he became a deer. Moral of the story, don't get pets. Like that's usually the way the trajectory goes, right? Pets, bad. My Guru Maharaj said, you know, Jad Bharat's problem was not the deer. His problem was that he was alone in the forest without association. Without other devotees to say, bro, what are you doing? I mean, he didn't say that exactly, but you know, the essence, the new commentary is in essence, bro, what are you doing? It's actually not bad to have compassion for other living entities. It's not bad to take up the care of other living entities. Krishna himself had loads of pets, like a whole farm full of pets, right? Nanda Maharaj had something like 900 million cows. Our whole philosophy would be debunked if we didn't care for other life forms. But the problem is there was no one to say, you're getting off track. It's not a problem there, but you're getting off track here, you're forgetting. We need each other. We need other Vaishnavas, these Vaishnava Acharyas in their lives. They're constantly reminding one another of what we really, truly need. Even Vidura, in that first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, he's reminding Dhritarashtra. It's not always the most palatable form of reminders. Vidura was a little bit strong in his reminding, Like your liver is failing, all of your well-wishers are dead, and you're living in the house of your enemies. Give it up. In essence, see, in essence, the commentary is, bro, what are you doing? So we need those reminders. As difficult as it sounds, you know, when we're feeling okay, to say we need those reminders, but we do. These are our Vaishnavas who come and tell us, what are we doing? There's a better thing. There's a better way. There's a better life. There's a better existence. And it's waiting for us. Not just waiting for me, waiting for us. Because nobody gets left behind, and there's room, there's space, there's a particular place and service for everyone. If Padmavati can serve Krishna and show her love by talking about all the ways in which somebody should have called Child Protective Services on the Brijbasis, there's a place for all of us. There's a place for the naysayers. There's a place for those who are just going to be contrary. There's a place for those who are going to agree with policy. There's a place for everyone. And sometimes we have to figure out when to tolerate and expertly ignore those wonderful devotees who are adding spice to our present leelas, which that's how I'm going to have to think about it from now on. Oh, this devotee is adding some wonderful spice to this present leela. It's not always the most favorite spice. Like sometimes they're adding a whole cardamom pod that just when you get that perfect mouthful of rice, you're going to bite into it. And then you're going to think, why have I done this? So sometimes that's the spice that they're adding. Sometimes we become the spice adders. But Krishna will tolerate us. And not tolerate the way we tolerate. For us, sometimes tolerate means, oh, great, you're here. Jai Hare Krishna. But for Krishna, he's tolerating. His tolerance means he welcomes with open arms, ready to serve someone else. And he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But he always descends with his people. They say Krishna never comes alone. Always with his associates and his paraphernalia. So if that's the case, then it doesn't stand to reason that we are meant to be solo souls. Self-sufficient, complete in and of ourselves. That theory just doesn't hold. The way we find this completion is in the association of other devotees, hopefully like-minded. But of course, there will always be some who are going to add some spice, because that's Krishna's pastimes. Those are the nature of them. He can't save the day if there's no one to add in anything. And so on this particular Vaishnava Acharya lecture, I just wanted to describe how much we need each other. How much through all of the grief and the turmoil and the loss and the sadness and everything else, how important it is for us to actually feel those things. It means we cared about someone. And the goal is not to think that, oh, well, you know, it's fine. I didn't care. Why are you lamenting? Like, you know, there's another life besides this. Why are you lamenting? Like, we don't say that. If somebody burns their arm, we go, oh my goodness, how can I help? And then what usually happens is all the remedies come out. Put a potato peel on it. That's a real remedy, by the way. Rub some ghee on it. Put a banana peel. Do something. Sprinkle tomato juice on it. So we care. We don't say, oh, come on, your body is not real, buck up. We don't say that if somebody's, you know, lying, hurt after a surgery, during a surgery, needs a surgery. Everybody just gathers around and offers as many prayers as they can and well wishes. Has to be the same with grief. with loss. It's a real wound. But because we can't see it, it becomes a little bit more difficult to name. But the actuality of it is that it's real. The very day that Pankajangri Prabhu left, I went and I needed nectar. I needed association. So I turned on YouTube, went to a random lecture of my Guru Maharaj, and just pressed play. And I said, Krishna, I need something. So whatever you give me. And in this lecture, it was like 20 minutes. And it happened to be at the end of a lecture that Niranjan Maharaj had given. And he was talking about the prayers of Queen Kunti. And then my Guru Maharaj was saying that we need each other, in essence. But what he was also saying was, if we think, and the tendency is to think, this material world is an illusion. It's not real. So why are you even lamenting? Why is anybody even feeling anything? But he was saying, if we think that way, that becomes the downfall. Yes, it might be a dream, but it feels real. He said, if it was just a dream, we wouldn't have the example of Kunti Devi praying again and again in this ultimate mood of surrender. Save me, save my sons. Crying. He said her tears would mean nothing if this was just a dream, if it didn't matter. But in order not to deal with the grief and the loss and everything else that is very difficult to deal with, we try to take the shortcut and say, why are you? It's fine. And I was thinking, I said, Krishna, you're really amazing, because it was exactly what I needed to hear. Yeah, feel it. It's there. It's happening. It's real. The same way that I can't just say, if you burn your arm, detach from the body, Prabhu, with all due respect. Okay? You shouldn't even feel it. We never say that. We go get a cream or an ointment or a remedy or something, and we try to help ease the pain of the situation. So this is what we can do for one another in times of grief and loss. We can try and give a remedy and ease the pain of the situation. Those remedies are none other than Krishna Katha. Pastimes of Sri Krishna are soothing. I went and started looking up the word soothing in the database. It's amazing how many times that word comes up in relation to Sri Krishna. His glance is soothing. His look is soothing. Just looking at his earrings is soothing. So many devotees have looked at different portions of Krishna and found it soothing. Speaking about him is soothing. In Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna himself, he says, my devotees, they then enliven each other and enthuse each other by gathering together and speaking about me. This is how we ease the pain of the current situation. But we can't do that if there's nobody to gather with. So we need other Vaishnavas. We need one another. So if any of us are dealing with things, and we often have thought, I need to get over this. I need to get over the loss of whoever it is. Even if it's a friend that we had that we stopped speaking to. Missing them is okay. This is the example of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. All of the devotees there, they gathered together. And if they didn't speak to one another for some time, they felt sad. And, of course, I'll end with this. The greatest example, he who brought the treasure of divine love and who was filled with compassion and mercy, where has such a personality as Advaita Acharya gone? Where are my Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta? And where is Krishna Das Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against the rock and enter into fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all of these devotees in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottam Das simply weeps. If the goal was to transcend all of these relationships to the point where they do not matter, why would this be the example of the song? Like, it's immortalized in poetry and in verse. This is the example. Where are my people? Where did they go? And then he doesn't just stop at saying, where are my people? He gets really dramatic with it, right? I will smash my head against the rock and enter into fire. If the goal was no longer to need anyone else, then there's no need for any smashing of heads on rocks or entering into any fires. But the example, the purpose, the point is that we need each other. Virtually, emotionally, personally. We need one another as friends, as spiritual companions, as mentors, as partners. We need one another. My Guru Maharaj, at one point, he was saying that there was a little bit of a misunderstanding, a break, a little bit of a lost in translation between the Grihastas of one temple and the Brahmacharis of one temple. So my Guru Maharaj just would simply go to each camp and tell one that the other was the best and all the good qualities of the other. But if they're Brahmacharis, why do they need anybody else? But they do. As a community, we need each other. Because service doesn't always just mean solitude. Right? Srila Prabhupada would say, the era of going into the forest in solitude, that's done. Also, it didn't work for a lot of people. When they got into the forest, it wasn't always great. And they would be doing their devotional service. But with the lack of association, it would cause really strange things to occur. They would anger other people. Weird things would happen without association. We need that devotee association. Online counts. And sometimes I do get the question. There's a lot of people, how can I get devotee association? And I say, there are so many videos, because, one thing that we're really, really good at is finding different ways to complain about things. Like we're good at finding the ways in which things won't work. So I'll say, there's so many ways we can get devotee association, but Mataji, there isn't, because it's a pandemic. And I'm like, well, there's online things we can look at, but Mataji, I need it to be face to face. And I'm like, well, I mean, you can see the other person. I mean, you can look at them, but Mataji, it's not gonna work. And I always think, if this virtual reality that we're in right now is teaching us anything, it's that this is actually what we've been doing with Krishna the entire time. Right? Have we actually been experiencing him face to face? Or is it really like a Zoom call? We pick up our japa. I'm not at that point where I'm so absorbed in my japa that I can reach out and touch him. But maybe I can get to the point where it's like I can turn on my computer, put my hand in my japa beads, and I can maybe get a glimpse of just maybe a portion of the effulgence of what's happening behind the scenes. If this virtual reality is teaching us anything, this is what we're doing with Krishna. Let's call him. Zoom call, FaceTime, doesn't matter. He picks up. He'll never decline it or send you those automated messages. Driving, we'll call later. Never. Draupadi was in full surrender. Krishna was on a battlefield at that point. And still, he never said, please leave a message after the beep. She called, he came, even unmanifest. This is Krishna, who always has time for our text messages and voice memos and whatever it is. If we call out, if we reach out. Otherwise, he says, I'm reciprocal. I have to give you what you give me. So if you give me nothing, then you're telling me you want me to stay away. So I have to. Have to. The Lord doesn't have to do anything. But he says, I have to. These are the rules that I made for myself. I do what you want me to do. That means all the times that I'm sitting there chanting, saying, Krishna, where are you? Why don't you answer me? It's because he's doing what I asked him to do. If I can't hear him, it's because I've asked at some point. Oh Lord, I want to do things on my own. So I'm going to need you to make yourself silent just for a little while. Put the ringer on silent. Now I have to change my desire. Wait, Lord, I want to hear you loud and clear. Although sometimes we do backtrack and we think, but do I? Am I ready to hear him loud and clear? Because some things we can't unhear after that. But we should be ready to hear him loud and clear. And the example comes from all of these Vaishnavas. The way that they have fearlessly grabbed Krishna consciousness throughout their entire lives. Right? We really see what somebody is worth in those moments. Those times when the stress comes. These devotees, they become fearless. And the only thing that I can attribute that fearlessness to is grabbing hold of the lotus feet of Shri Krishna and the devotees. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a song that says, Bhaja Hure Mana, Shri Nandanandana Abhaya Charanadavindare. Just by grasping your lotus feet, it awards all fearlessness. Like they wouldn't have put it in the song if it wasn't true. So the same with Jayani Lo. If we didn't need each other, if these relationships were not eternal because they are based on our devotional service, if they were not integral to our lives, we would not have a song simply just based on, where did my friends go? I loved them so much and now I won't hear from them again. And that was the treasure of my life. So we shouldn't be so quick to get over it. Let's go deeper into it and find out what it means. Let's see that grief for what it really is. We miss our people. And in missing our people, we're actually following in the footsteps of the devotees. It is actually following Vaishnav Guru Parampara to miss people, to feel sadness for the people. So I want to conclude by singing Jayani Lo, if you'll permit me. Just having a few minutes of kirtan on my birthday. Not to guilt you into it or anything, but it is my birthday. So if we want to give me a gift, Vaishnav Thakur ki jai, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jayani Lo Premadana Karuna Praju Prabhu kota gela Acharya taku kaha mora swarup rupa kaha sanatan kaha dasa ragunata patita pavan kaha mora bhatta juga kaha kavira eko kale khota gela gauranatara pasaneku tibamata anale pashiba gauranga gunera nidhi kota gele pava se sabasangira sange je koilo bila se sangana paya kande narotamada je anila premadana karuna prachu jaya Vaishnav Thakur Vaishnav Thakur Vaishnav Thakur jaya Vaishnav Thakur jaya Vaishnav Thakur Vaishnav Thakur Vaishnav Thakur jaya Vaishnav Thakur jaya Gaura Hari Gaura Hari Gaura Hari jaya Gaura Hari jaya Gaura Hari jaya Gaura Hari Gaura Hari jaya Gaura Hari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Murlidhar Radha Murlidhar Radhe Jaya Radha Murlidhar Radha Murlidhar Radhe Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Gaura Haribo Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Gaura Haribo. Shri Radha Murlidhar ki jai, Shri Radha Govinda Devi ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gauranga Mahaprabhu ki jai.
Her Grace Acyuta Gopi Devi ki jai. Thank you so much, Mother Acyuta Gopi, for explaining so beautifully about the importance of association, also the importance of absorption in Krishna, which is the essence of renunciation of the Vaishnava. Thank you very much. Very grateful to you for especially touching. Thank you so much. I would like to invite all the devotees to wish Acyuta Gopi a very, very happy and Krishna conscious birthday on this day. So you can feel free to unmute yourself and wish her. Thank you.
Happy birthday! Hare Krishna! Hare Krishna, Acyuta Gopi. Thank you so much for spending at least a little part of your birthday with us. I'm personally, like you mentioned,